now.
All right. Week 4. How? Why? No. But okay, fine. That's my full cycle. Okay. Anyway, there's a lot going on right now. And because of all the momming that I had to do today, I feel like I'm not caught up. But this is what I know to be true. PRs are all mentor approved, but each of them are experiencing the same bug that each pair has put a different solution in place for. Is that true? Ish?
So, at least I
don't think we have a solution yet.
Oh.
I think we made a discovery of it, but no solution yet.
That is totally fine. Leanne, is this, only because I see her face, Leah, or Fabrice was your partner this week.
Yeah.
Is this the same thing that we were looking at earlier in the week?
No, the thing you and I were looking at, that was with the, we couldn't get the user token, and that's just because we didn't have it. And so we added that into, what was it? Our item contacts is
Right.
grab the user token from the local storage. No, this problem is the re-rendering. Is that what we're talking about? Is that what this bug is?
Yes. That we have to do like a manual refresh.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Well, this is what I'm thinking. Before I hand it over to Yves for demos, I was thinking we could get a quick rundown of what that bug looks like. And if we have high-level thoughts on what that is, we can share them. We won't dig into it right now, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what that bug is, where it's documented, and how we're going to plan to fix it. And so ideally, I think what would happen is we walk through it now, somebody creates a bug report in our issues in GitHub, and then we make a commitment to work as a full team to fix it, or the first pair maybe that gets done next week launches into this one, or somehow make sure that the bug is taken care of. So is anybody willing to volunteer to show us what that bug looks like? Even Scott, like if you want to, you totally can.
Yes, I guess I'm not 100% sure, and I wanted to confirm with Leanne. Is that the bug that we talked about, like we worked on together? Is that the same one?
That's what I thought it was, yeah. And
Okay.
And then earlier today, Scott noticed when you don't have, I guess I can, let me make sure I just have everything all pulled up and I can share my screen.
Awesome, thanks, Leanne.
Yeah, all right, let me just.
Yeah, it's good to have somebody double check because I might be misinterpreting what I'm seeing too. So
this is why we have a full team working on things.
Yes, I was able to recreate it when I tried to test it out, like typing in a token. I typed in a token for something that I already had a list for. And again, I come into an empty string. Once I hit a refresh, then I get all the items on my list.
So it is related to the token.
No, I think it's related to the list component. But when you enter a token, it gets routed to the list component.
Okay, so that sounds different from what Leanne and I worked on then.
All right, give me 5 seconds.
No worries. We'll take about another 7 minutes or so to look at this, and then we'll jump into demos. So
Okay,
let's see it.
Let me pull up what the bug is, originally what it was doing. All right. Copy that. Let's delete. Perfect. So we go back to the welcome. I think we have it fixed, but it might not actually, this might not be the solution. So if I take items out of this, and we just have that, this is what the bugs is. So, hey, I want to join that list that has Kiwi and something else on it. Let's join it. List is empty, but I know that list isn't empty. So when I do a hard refresh, it shows that. But if you add that back in, And if we, let's see.
So you're going to delete the token manually.
Yeah, so if you delete the token, and then we go back to, it should work now.
Okay.
Because we put that items in.
All right.
Perfect. Leanne, do you have any idea why
Awesome.
it's working like that?
So I'm not exactly sure why that fixes it. I think because we are doing this use effect, we have to pass those items because it just needs to know those. It's not getting those from anywhere. I'm not exactly sure why though. Like that's the magical fix. I'm still a little confused about that.
Cool, cool. Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds like a weird side effect of some sort. Like why? Because so I guess the thing to keep in mind is, so this is the use effect function, which is a React hook, and the purpose of use effect is that every time that items context renders, it's gonna trigger that use effect function.
Mm-hmm.
And it has, however, when you add in brackets like you did DB items and user token, what this does is that it says whenever the DB variable or the items variable or the user token variable changes, then we want to make sure that we render that, we run that use effect function only when these change.
Okay.
And so essentially by adding items, you're saying to the component, if items change, then we want to run that database query again, which is...
This is what I think is happening. You have this use effect, right? And inside that dependency array, that array on the end, we're looking for items. And so I was thinking something like when this initially renders, it's not aware of any items because like it's not looking to see if any items updated, so how would it know? But then when that DB calls happens, it actually is getting items and it's updating the state. But I wonder if the DB, like to get the items, isn't running like when we would expect it to. I'm not fully sure, but it seems like it's not aware of that it needs to run because the items hasn't changed or something. I was thinking that maybe because like when it first renders, oh, go ahead.
Oh, so what I'm seeing is that items is the only thing in here that is state. So the database variable never changes. The user token variable never changes. And so if you actually take out database and user token from those dependencies, it works as we are seeing it work now. Those things are never changing. So there's nothing to listen to.
That's exactly right, I think. So like when it knows to listen for the items to be changing, it can then like register that there are items at all, maybe?
Then I get this little error message.
I'm not getting that. What is that?
Yeah, there's like just things that I feel like should be in there, that it's like you should be listening for changes on these other things. I don't know the details of it, but generally what I've read, and like I went to some like React training by like people who created like React Router and stuff. And they were like, what's the Abrams guy?
Dan.
Yes, Dan. They're like, Abramov.
Dan Abramov, yeah.
Dan's telling you to put those there, so you probably should put them there.
I mean, I think the meaning of that error, as far as I understand, is that, so essentially, use effect only runs, either it runs all the time, or either it runs only when the component mounts, or it will run when your dependencies change. And I think it's probably best practice that when you have a variable that you use in use effect as a dependency to put it in that array. So like since DB and user token are used in that use effect function, you probably want to have them in there, because whenever DB and user token change, then you have an updated, the side effects are running. So that's the way I make sense of it. As
Yeah.
in, like, since you're using DB in that function, you want it as a
You want to
dependency.
consider them. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to watch
That
them.
makes
So
sense.
like if you don't have that dependency array at all in there at all, it's just going to run like continuously whenever it wants. It's very uncontrolled. When you have the dependency array and it's empty, it's only going to render when that component mounts. So kind of like for the most part when that page like loads.
Yes.
That's like a terrible way to say it, and people would poke holes in that 100 times, but you get it. Here, anytime any of these variable changes, it runs. So I think by adding items, I wonder if because when this component renders and it actually goes and gets the items and then the state changes and the use effect's able to run again and then render those items.
Okay.
Something like that. I
I
can't
guess
be sure.
something I wonder that might be, I mean, and I know the time is kind of limited here, but something that might be worth exploring is like what happens on the welcome screen when you set that shared token. There might be some sort of code that's doing things there that might be an explanation of why it might not be, all in sync. So that's something that might be worth looking into. I don't know if it has been done already.
Yeah, like I wonder if it has anything to do with the way that the user's navigating from the welcome page onto the list, like whether they're being pushed there or whether they're getting a React router redirect, like
push there.
So I wonder if they're like, I wonder if that has anything to do with it. I don't know. I have no idea.
When you do share token, when you send that, what happens? Is the handle submit is the function that gets triggered?
Mabel and Fabrice, you did this last week. You might be able to explain this a little more, have more detail.
Yeah, so basically on the use effect, so when you do the submit, we go ahead and query the database. So we go into the database, we check if there is a matching token, and then we're gonna set it in local storage. As soon as we set it into local storage, then that use effect from line 35 is going to trigger because there is a token, and so it's going to push the user to the list component.
Okay.
Interesting. It's like, okay, if there's a token, so where is the token being set into local storage? Okay, handle click set to local storage.
Yeah, in line 31.
And the use effect is looking at history. I wonder what it's updating on history, because I wonder if we inspect, if we don't have that items in that dependency array, when they're pushed to the list, is there a token already set? Or is that list rendering before there's a token even set in local storage? Because this doesn't have this doesn't say anywhere set in local storage and then redirect. Like set in local storage, if there's a token redirect, but it's kind of like there could be race conditions there.
I think that's probably, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, because in line 9, if you console log the token, there is no token. So the token is going to come in as null. And only when the user enters the token in the input and hits submit, that's the only time that first we're going to go to the database to confirm that it's a real token. And then we go into line 31 where we say, now you can set this token. So in line 31, when we set the token, then the token is no longer null. And so that's why line 36 will kick in and say, okay, now I have a token, so I'm going to push to the list.
Interesting. I wonder though if the history in that dependency array on line 39, I wonder if that history is updating before the token and causing the use effect to trigger before the token triggers the use effect.
Like it would render the list component before the token has been updated, and so the list component shows empty because the token is like probably null.
So there could be a way that you could sort of like play around with debugging this so that you can stop it at that line of code and see, like, because if you try and watch with your human eyes, it could be like really fast, like, oh, there's a token there, it looks fine. But if you stop it on a line of code, you could see that maybe the history is triggering that use effect just a teeny tiny bit before the token is triggering the use effect, the change of the token. So lots of stuff to play around right there. But it looks like there is a fix in Leanne and Fabrice's brand. Cool. Okay. Problem solved. Nobody needs to create a bug or investigate this further. But if you want to like really dig into this kind of thing and debugging and just take on like learning more about a really challenging issue, this could be a really fun one to dig into.
Yeah. It could be a good candidate for office hour or like a video call sometime. Absolutely.
That would be so fun. Okay. With that, great work. That was so much fun to dig into. Okay. Looks like you all did amazing work. I'm turning it over to Yves for demos.
All right. Thank you, Stacie. So yeah, as usual, we have 2 demos this week. We have 2 tickets that were handled. One was about that welcoming list. That is kind of like this. I guess the first one was about, and first one is not, like it could be the second one too, I guess, depending on which order you want to take it. But one of the tickets was about, incentivizing users to create their first items. And the other one was about essentially giving a sense to the user of like, okay, when was the last time they purchased that item, with that 24-hour period of time to be like, hey, maybe it's time to purchase that again, kind of thing. So I guess I'm kind of talking about these in broad languages, but I guess the question is, who wants to demo what they did? That's the real question, right?
Fabrice, if you want to, we can demo first. If it's pretty quick now that we've already gone over the error with the bug.
Absolutely.
Cool. So if we create a new list, so we click that, you'll see this lovely little thing prompt, this span that says your list is empty. Please add an item. So if you add an item, whatever you want to add. Cool. All right, if we go back to our list, it's there. And the span that told you to add an item is gone. So that's basically what we did. Super easy, but like I said, there were a lot of bugs that we had to fix first. So since we've already talked about the bugs, let's just go over exactly what we did. So we created a variable, a Boolean, just called empty list, and we set it to false. And then we checked our items length. And if it was 0, because items is an array, we made that be true. And then we have this statement on line, where are we, 28, that's like, hey, if empty list is true, show the span. If not, show the list. And so I guess we can talk about the function that we made to fix that re-rendering. So if we want to go to items context, we scroll down, we created a function called update items and added that to our provider because originally we just had items. And so update items goes to our database, make sure the tokens match. We get a snapshot and map through it, and then we set those items, and we use that, we invoke that function in add item. So we want to go to add item file, and on line 32 is where we invoke it, right after we add an item to the database. So then we're refreshing and updating our list, so we don't have to manually do it. And that's it.
Great work, team. This is beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so essentially that update items function that you've added was because of that bug where essentially when you added an item and went back to the list, then the list was not updated, right?
Yes, it would update in the database, but not on our list unless we did a hard refresh. So this way, by having that function, we don't have to do that hard refresh.
And I really like the fact that, you know, this ticket, this issue was kind of like a smaller one, but it was also a great opportunity to be like, oh, there's a couple of bugs to squash on the way. And so it was like, ended up being like a decent amount of work. So that's pretty
I feel like that is a really good experience of like what your jobs as developers might be like. You're like, oh my gosh, this ticket's going to be so easy. I'm literally just creating like a really simple presentational component. And you go in and you're like, oh, buddy, there's a lot of cleanup to be done here.
Exactly.
So this is like, that was a really good example of what you might do on the job.
Exactly. All right. Well, is there any questions about this ticket, about this issue? I keep calling them tickets.
Beautiful, clean code. I loved it.
All right.
I love to, like, I want to keep calling this out. I love that you're very much sticking to like a very plain, simple black and white design, because we're going to be getting to design later. It's something in the past that we've sort of like had teams sort of struggle with, because they'll spend a lot of time designing and then it just gets wiped in the end. And they're like, but I spent so much time on it. So great job sticking to just the acceptance criteria.
Perfect.
All right, Mabel and Leah, do you guys want to show us what you've been working on? You don't have a choice anymore.
So we basically just added checkboxes for each item on the list first. And when the user selected item from the list, we capture the current time and update the item's last purchase property in a database with the current time. So if you look at salmon in a database for now, I think the last purchased property should be null. And if you check salmon off the list, its last purchase date is updated. So, and we also updated the checkboxes checked and disabled state to be true based on the last purchase property. If the difference between the current time and the last purchase time is less than 24 hours, the checkbox should be disabled, like banana and Haggis on this list. If the difference is more than 24 hours, the item should be unchecked. So if we look at Apple in the database, yeah, so
Memorize the ID for that one. I love it.
yeah, so the so you can see it's like purchased a day ago. So now the Apple is unchecked. So we can go to the code now. So basically, what we did is in the list component, we used the last purchase property to control the checkboxes checked and disabled state. And whenever the user clicks on the checkbox, in the handle change function, we use the item's ID as an identifier to locate the specific item and update the item with the new data, which is the current time. So where does this ID come from, you ask? Well, it's from the item's context. So we included the doc's ID from the Firestore in our data this time. So we think it's a better identifier than the item's name, or we just think it's a better identifier to to locate the item. And our solution to the refreshing, the hard refresh bug is Mabel found a very elegant solution from the Firestore documentation. So the on snapshot method updates the database real time. So every time we make changes to the database, and on snapshot just updates the database automatically. So we can always get the latest data from the database.
So in this branch, without having items in that dependency array, You're
Yeah.
able to like access an existing list and get those items right away.
Yeah, so Mabel, do you want to demo the add functionality so without refreshing the page?
Oh, I see. It's a different bug. Sorry. I was thinking it was the other one.
Yeah, so now strawberries is in the list without hard refresh.
Beautiful. That's perfect. If you on this branch, I'm just curious to see what happens. If you like do the same process where you get like delete the token, go back to the token, does it still render no list until you do a hard refresh?
Yeah, I think we were having the same issue.
Okay.
So what was the token? I made this one. That is easy clear.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's 11. I was wondering like, oh, is this a weird kind of change that would trigger that to be fixed? So cool. Sounds like the adding items to that dependency array is the trick then. This looks beautiful. Great work.
I was gonna say, can we add items just to see, make sure that that actually works, or to the dependency array? I mean, in the code itself.
Where you mean?
In like items context, how we have on line 21, if you add
Here, 21.
Yeah, if you add items in there,
Okay, so we have items here.
does that fix it?
I've never seen anybody remove their cookies like this, and I'm really fascinated by it.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. Today I learned.
Yeah, we need.
It worked.
Yay!
Adams fixed it. Yeah.
Amazing. You all did incredible work this week. So good. So I'm curious to know what you all think. Oh, actually, I should just leave it for the retro. When you're doing retro, think about like your time commitment, because it seemed like these issues, like the core of the issues, were kind of easy-ish, but like all the other bugs that you dealt with added like a whole new layer of complexity. So I'm curious to hear more about that. Curious to hear about like your time commitment, how much time you're spending, and like ways you think that we could work together as like a whole team to make sure these bugs are getting like flushed out really well. Anyway, amazing work. Any other thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I really liked about that code is that, you know, they're really relying on the native like JavaScript date object in a very simple way. It's just like, you know, new date and then compare new date with like, okay, how many is 24 hours in milliseconds, and just comparing that. And so I like how like it's a very simple solution where there's no need for like a third-party library to handle dates or anything like that. So I'm just like, yay.
So good. So good. I feel like that's the simplest I've ever seen it handled in this particular project. And the fact that you didn't use a third party library can add a lot to our performance, because Moment, for example, is an enormous library. Like there are tools that allow you to like compare the size of a library and see how much like the load time basically on it is. And Moment is very, 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 very large. So the fact that you do this without using that is like huge trophy to you. The most giant trophy that you can get. Yeah. Great work, everyone.
Yeah, we kind of like consider it for a second, and they're like, I think this is kind of like simple enough. We can handle it with what we have.
You're a better developer than I am. I would have reached for a moment, like the minute I saw date, I would have been like, oh, no. There's kind of library for that. So amazing work. So good. I'm very impressed.
And the other library that can be also pretty, you know, what's the word? Like pretty hungry for, you know, like performance-wise is Lodash as well.
Yeah.
It's one that, you know, it's a go-to library that sometimes you can actually avoid. So yeah, that's great.
A good, very small library that does a lot of what Moment does, but is much, much, much smaller, is datefn. Is that what it's called? Like date function, datefn is like a very simple one that I've seen used a lot in the past, and I've used myself like at work too. So actually I have a tool that I'm going to send you all where one of those tools where you can see like how long it takes to load these libraries and the size of them and stuff. Anyway, okay. Amazing demos this week, as per usual. You all are incredible with demos. I should save it because I'm probably going to say that in retros, but great job. Great. So, Scott, on retros.
Right on. Oh. Why is that there? Okay. So I'm going to let people read their own retros here.
I totally have not added yet, so I'm going to need some minutes. Sorry.
Okay. So let's just take
right?
You want to take 7 minutes to get that? Anybody needs to get them in there?
That would be so good. Thank you. And you can, like, if you've already posted them, you can refine, you can add to them, do what you will.
Emojis, add emojis.
Emojis. Okay. I'm going, I swear. I'll mute so you don't have to hear me click clacking. If y'all are
All
done, if
right.
you want to post in the chat, you can be done. I forgot to mention that.
All right, I'm done.
1, 2, 3. Mabel and Scott are the remainders.
All right. Looks like everybody's got it.
Good. Oh, yes. Excellent.
Sweet. So let's start out with shout outs, and I'll let everybody read their own cards there to take it since it runs smooth that way.
Okay, so I guess I'll start, and definitely shout out to Leanne for finding our bugs. Yes, thank you. And also shout out to Leah for steering us in the right direction when we started to implement the checkbox functionality. My initial idea was kind of like using the use effect to check the database and go ahead and do the check-in there. But right away she said, that's not gonna work, you know, it's not, that's only gonna capture, you know, like last C. And so we definitely found a better solution, but she was able to spot that right away, so rock star.
Nice.
That is really cool to hear. I'm so glad that you were able to find out together a solution that is more fitting to the problem. That's awesome.
I love it all. Okay. Me. You are all incredibly self-sufficient. Like, I kind of wonder if I'm even doing my job here. So amazing work. Like, I think this speaks loads to your teamwork and collaboration skills that, like, as mentors, we can kind of sit back and know that you've got the, like, project management side of it all handled. Like, you're gonna pair, you're gonna get together, you're gonna get the PRs up, and we don't even have to question it at this point. We don't have to push you to do it, you just do it. And that is like, those are the people you want on your team. So amazing, amazing work there. I appreciate my co-mentors for being so available and, like, contributing and doing things without me even having to think about it. Again, like, I'm like, am I even doing my job anymore? Again, it's just like, you both have been an absolute delight to pair with on this, and it's been incredible. So thank you, appreciate you. And, oh, I appreciate how proactive you all are with this, like, bug bountying, like finding these bugs, fixing these bugs, kind of working together and discussing them, showing them, like, being allowed. That too is like a really important skill that will play into your futures on a dev team, because there will be bugs and they will come up when you're least expecting them, and seeing how fluidly you all tackled them and kind of like owned them was really impressive and really fantastic to see. So appreciate you all for all those incredible skills.
That is so true. And yeah, and so also I wanted to do a shout out to Fabrice. It was last week, but it was having I guess a little of like with merge conflicts. You know, merge conflicts are this stressful thing, right? And so he kind of asking for help, and I really appreciate how he was like able to keep his cool and just be like, okay. And we figure it out, and it was not, you know, like nothing, you know. I feel like it was a nice way to be like, okay, it was very much like in control, and so I appreciated that.
I feel like Fabrice is always keeping us cool and in control and like go with the flow. I super appreciate that too.
I wonder if he's internally freaking out though.
Doesn't show.
And I guess the next one is also me with a shout out to Leanne, who so we did like some bug fixing this week, and I was really impressed by how she was able to just like it was a lot of rubber ducking essentially. So I was just kind of, nudging her just a tiny bit in the right direction. But I was really impressed by how she was able to deduct, oh, so that's what's going on, and that's what's going on, and so that was really cool to see. And I got to say, I'm very proud.
All right, Fabrice.
Oh, all right. Shout out to Leanne for her great debugging this past week, especially when we did get stuck when we first found the bug. I definitely want to, highlight that. And oh, looks like the next one was not mine.
Do you have any others in there?
I think I'm
No,
pretty
that was
sure.
it. Okay. Leah?
Was that a jaguar? What was that? I'm
Leah?
not the one who heard it, right?
Shout out to Mabel for finding the clean and elegant solution for the update issue. And shout out to Leanne and Fabrice for leaving thoughtful comments for the code review. I learned a lot from your discussions.
Oh, I love that line. I learned a lot from our discussions. Like, I feel like that is the ultimate crux of being a developer. I learned a lot from our discussions. Like, that's why we have to collaborate, and that's why we have to do code reviews, because that's how we learn. I love it, Leah.
I have shout outs to Leanne and Mabel for your engagement in the PRs. You're getting conversations going that are obviously helping people a lot. So I think that's amazing. And I wanted to shout out Yves just for you've had a lot of good energy this week and presence, and it's been awesome, especially as I've been a bit more out. All right, so let's take a look at what went well. Oh,
Is there still another one?
I'm sorry. Where did I skip you? I'm sorry.
It's okay, no worries.
There you go.
So if you can scroll up just a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so sorry about that.
No, sorry.
No, it's okay. So shout out to Leah and Stacie for the use context from last week. I feel like could not wrap my head around that once again. New concept. So thank you so much for all your help there and figuring it out together. Shout out to this week for Fabrice for being an awesome partner and solving the bugs in our code. And anytime we found one, I was like, let's solve it together. And being willing to do that. And then also, let's see, also shout out to Yves for pointing me in the right direction for whenever I was trying to figure out the one bug and just giving me those gentle little hints to guide me in the right direction and not just telling me the answer. I really appreciate that. And then also shout out to Mabel for always having great reviews on the PR, and I feel like you always have really good ways and very insightful methods and that are clean and elegant to solve a solution in code. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
All right, so to take a look at what went well, we should keep rolling. Mabel?
Sure. So, mentors, I don't have a lot to say, just keep being awesome. And another thing is, as the tests get more complex, we're still pushing through and we're still putting in a solution and doing the pull request sometimes. So I'm really happy about it.
Yves?
Yeah, what I think is going on super well is something that Stacie already touched in the shout outs, which is how I really appreciate how everybody's so independent. I don't feel like there's any need to be hey, where are you PRs, or are you guys working together on this, or so it's really cool to just you're really owning the project and getting the work done in a very serious way, and that's really awesome. That's all you can ask for, If I were a team lead, I would be so happy because I wouldn't have to do anything. As Stacie, I don't have anything to do. That's the dream, That's what, you're a team lead. You're just you have other issues you want to deal with. So that's really cool. That's really cool that you have this spirit and this way to work, which is awesome.
Oh, good. Okay, Stacie. Okay, let's see. Oh, it seems like the office hours are good. I think so. Like, I want to keep doing that, and I want to pressure other mentors on other teams to do it because it's like it's it's very important. And I feel like this is kind of more my vision for mentorship at Collab Lab is that we have this more like easily accessible relationship with all of our team, and that we're there for them, and that we're open and able to like actually have some kind of mentor relationship. So I love the office hours. I want them to keep going. I hope you all feel the same. If not, please do let me know. You're all so incredibly technically skilled, which again, like has been something we've refined over and over again throughout the program, like looking for people who are ready for the collaboration aspect of being on a dev team rather than the learning to code aspect. So it's like these solutions you're putting in place are incredible. And like somebody was just saying about Mabel, like just like intuitively knowing like, oh, I know how to do that without like having to even think about it is like wildly impressive. You are all incredible developers, and I can't. You have been pushing PRs up on time. Usually we're left like wrapping up on the last day, which is fine, but we haven't had to like shift any of the program. Like in previous teams, you know, we've had to be like, well, this team like is not going to get this one done in the previous week or in the next week, so we're just gonna have to like shift a bunch of things around. But you're all like totally killing it and getting things done totally on time. So amazing work there. Those things are going well. Keep doing the things. Amazing work.
Thanks, Stacie. Fabrice?
Yep. Just wanted to say I'm thankful for all the mentors and their availability, and wanted to highlight Yves, especially this past week, just like you were mentioning, as far as the merge conflicts, whatnot, and also with helping with our bug this week as well. That's always definitely really appreciated.
Thank you. Leah?
I think the code review discussions really gave me new perspectives on the code and the app architecture. So let's keep the conversation going.
I love that one.
Who's this? Leanne.
Yeah. So shout out to the mentors. You guys always kill it. I really enjoy the office hours. I feel like that is a big, big help. So thank you for just being there and being available. I also really enjoy the feedback that I've been getting from the PR reviews. I like that it's a bit more constructive and able to like, you know, make the code better. And then I also like that whenever we have a bug in our code, that we do it right then, like we try to fix it. And it's not one of those like, oh, we'll get to that later. Like, we'll fix it in a bit. But we actually take the time to solve it because, yeah. So that's it.
I'm actually curious about something you said there. The feedback being constructive. Can you point to something? Do you have something in particular in mind there?
For the PRs?
Yeah, for feedback being constructive.
Yeah. So Mabel posted on our most recent on Fabrice and I's PR about using I can't even remember, but it was Snapshot, I think, or just
Snapshot.
Yeah. And so being like, oh, I completely forgot about that, and like I didn't even like should look into it more. And then also giving that resource to be like, hey, check it out. Here's the docs. I really enjoyed that. So I think that's more of that. I love it.
So good.
It's awesome. Let's see. I can't seem to scroll up here. That's me. So yeah, again, the conversations in our, and it's cool to watch the conversations are slowly developing, you know, because originally when we first 3 weeks, a little bit more just like, great, cool, looks awesome. And we moved on, and it's just like every week it seems to be a little bit more engaged and contentful. So I think that's something that's obviously building, and we should definitely keep doing that.
Love it.
Let's see. So pain points. What's not working for people? What do we need to improve here? So Yves.
Yeah, and I'll start, and I want to emphasize that what I got in this column is not as much as pain points are just like open questions, just
Okay.
kind of thoughts of things I might have noticed and thinking, oh, should we change things a little bit? So it's not really pain points. It's more like, do we have a need for a change or not? So the first one I had was about, so and Stacie mentioned like, oh, the PRs, you know, when we get to our sync, we are in like, the PRs are like, it's just clean up before they get merged, which is great. But I was wondering if it would be useful to maybe do our syncs on Sunday so that we even get the cleanup done by Sunday for PRs. So that's just kind of a question. I mean, as just an idea, we don't have to do anything about it, depending on how people feel about it. But because, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, it's like this 99%, like the PR is 99% done. It's like there's just this 1%, and I can be, I'm just like, should we worry? Not worry, but like, do we want to get to the point where it's just like, when we do our weekly sync, everything is clean and nice, and we're just ready for the next step, and we don't even need to worry about issues that we dealt with in this week. So it's just a question. I don't know if people have opinions about this or not, but yeah.
I love it. I posted in the chat that like, I'm totally open to that change. We can totally do that, no problem. So I'll post something in Slack so that we can like all weigh in. But what I found like with all the other teams is like, no matter when your sync is, it's kind of the same situation come sync day. It's like, oh, it's just kind of quiet there. It's just the week just shifted backwards a day or forwards a day or whatever. So, but if Sundays work, like we can switch stuff up. Doesn't matter, whatever works for you. Like if it's easier for you to pair on Saturdays and Sundays and stuff. So I'll post a thing about it and we can like do a doodle or agree on whatever and do the thing. Okay. I know, I have to hurry. Okay. Okay, I'm curious to know, and I won't ask here, but we can post it in Slack, how much time y'all have been spending on the like issues and pairing each week. Just because I want to make sure that I'm like organizing the program in a way that allows us to stick to that about 5-hour commit. So I'll kind of like survey you in Slack and see what you've been thinking. But if you ever feel like it's getting outside of those bounds, like do like reach out right away and let me know so that it can be like top of mind. I want to make sure everybody's getting the chance to present in demos and create PRs and do the actual commits on the PRs and stuff, because you're only going to get those skills by actually doing those things. And I want this to be like a safe space where you can practice those things and learn those skills. And again, broken record, and I'll always say I'm a broken record before I say this because I say it so much, but this is like content generation material here. Like you create a PR, there's content. You do a demo during one of these things, that's content. Snip it out of YouTube and put it on your portfolio. Like this is all content. Commit messages, content for your PR. So anytime you take one of these steps to do one of these things, it's like just a brilliant addition to your portfolios and why somebody should hire you. So switch around those responsibilities to make sure like everybody's getting the chance to do those things. Draft PRs, I don't know if you've done them or not, but for me, the only way I can write out a really robust PR description is if I'm doing it like while I'm actually doing the coding. Like, oh, I just took care of this task, so I'm going to pop that over to the PR. And it allows me to kind of like keep a finger on the pulse better than just throwing a PR up at the end of the week. So if you get together, you create a branch, write a little bit of code that first day and create a draft PR. And then it's just kind of up there for you to like collaborate on a little bit better. So you can collaborate on the description and stuff. And creating bugs in GitHub is a beautiful form of documentation that you could present, again, in interviews and things. So when you come across these bugs that you're coming across, go into the issues in GitHub and detail like what the behavior is, what the expected behavior is, any theories that you have about why they might be happening, and a plan for fixing it can be like, again, just something that's going to live on forever that you can present to whoever needs to see it. Okay, I'm done. I know I took forever.
Thank you, Stacie. Yeah, and I guess this one is also kind of more an open-ended question more than any criticism or anything. It's just that, so this is the second time I did office hours this weekend, and I guess every time I was like, okay, office hours is happening this day at that time, and then nobody shows up, and I'm so sad. No, I'm kidding. But the truth is that it seems to me that there might be more values in mentors just jumping in on spontaneous calls or scheduling a call for a purpose than an actual like office hour of like, okay, let's handle questions. So I'm just kind of questioning a bit the idea of like, does it make sense to have a set time every week where the door is open, or is it just good for us just to jump on opportunities as they arise? So it's just kind of like that open question there. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, like basically the open-ended question is like, what from us mentors would be most helpful for you all? I'll post that too. So
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. And I guess the next one is also me. And in this case, what I'm thinking about is that whenever you learn something new, whenever you like, consulting some documentation that you've never seen before, I think there could be a great opportunity for sharing this knowledge with others. So whenever you find something, it's like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know this. Feel free to go by, send a link in Slack in our channel, or other in the Learning Together channel. Like even if you have a Twitter account, you can just be like, hey, I just found this cool page on Twitter. So like, really don't hesitate to share the knowledge, because everybody is kind of has the things they know, but things that I don't know, for example. Like when it comes to Firestore, for example, like this on snapshot function is something I have no idea existed. So I'm like super curious. So don't hesitate. Like when you have this little bit of knowledge, be like, hey, here's something I learned today, and
I love that.
share with as many as you can.
Fabrice?
Yes. I mentioned, I think just in general, more comments in our code, I think would help, only because I think it would just help just as far as being able to recollect like what you're looking at and what the functionality is, especially if it's been a while since you've had to interact with that particular piece of code, for example. I think that just may be helpful. I think it just may be something that'll just make the entire collaboration process just a little bit quicker. Just my 2 cents.
Yep, I love it.
Mm-hmm. All right, who's here? Leanne.
It's long, it's probably me. So I think whenever we find a bug, I think we should announce it in the Slack. I think we did that for the first bug that we found, but we didn't do it for the second one. And the second bug was the one that we both like solved independently and had two different solutions. So I think once we find a bug, just being a little bit more mindful of like, hey, let's come together and solve it as a group, instead of like having these like two separate ways to do it. Not that that was bad. I actually loved it to see those two separate ways. But just might be more time efficient to do it, like get together as one. So then we don't have these merge conflicts that we're going to have and all that. And then another thing, this is just a little bit, can we pin messages in Slack that are either the Zoom meeting or the, like if there's an event that's going on? Because I feel like I'm starting to scroll up and like trying to find it, and there's a lot of chatter, so I can't really find it. And then the last one, sorry to like try to like get it all ready and all, comments in the code, because I was looking at things that I didn't write, and like, or things that I did write. I'm like, oh, I'm not actually sure why we did it this way or what the purpose is. So just writing like just little comments in the code and being like, function is doing this and used in this file, is like really helpful for me, just because I know in like 2 months time, 3 months time, I'm going to look at this code. I'm going to be like, what was I doing? What were we all doing here? So just having that in the code, and like Fabrice said, just so it keeps us to remember. That's it.
Oh, it's just me again. So yeah, one thing I've had troubles with just my schedule this week. Just got some new stuff going on, and I haven't really been as present as I feel like I should be. And then I feel like the PRs should have testing and QA steps. Because I think that by adding those steps, you wind up having to double check that your steps are correct, and you'll often find problems that you didn't know were there before you've even asked for review. So like maybe some of the stuff that we found this past week would have been found just by writing out the steps that a reviewer should be going through when they're testing your code. It's also handy for reviewers, just a little bit less thought process. They can get through it, at least started. And also, like, and this is for me, is that I need to figure out some sort of patent procedure on code reviews. You know, it's like I tend to have to like clone it down and poke around and try stuff out. So there must be some more efficient way of doing that.
I want to like go off something Scott said too about how he was like, I wasn't as available as I like want to be or whatever it might be. I think we've all had those same thoughts, and I want to emphasize that this is why we're a team, and this is where collaboration comes into play. When you have a full team like this that works together solidly and has a good team culture, it's okay when you need a flexible schedule. It's okay if you have to step out because you got sick. It's okay if something came up and you had to cancel a meeting, because you have that solid team to fall back on. And we can all give a little bit more, and we can give more, so that when we need to like take a little bit of time to ourselves, we can take it. So that is what teamwork and collaboration is about. Don't ever feel bad for having to step back when you have to step back, and always feel empowered to give a little more when you can give more. Okay. Amazing retro. That retro was beautiful. What? Amazing work. Oh, my heart. I love you all. Okay. I have another meeting starting like 4 minutes ago for Collab Lab, but we're going to fly through this next bit, which is next week's issues. Let me share my screen with you. And if you have further questions, because I'm going to kind of like skim over that a little bit, ask them in Slack, or Yves or Scott will be here and can jump in with you. But let me share my screen. We have a little bit of grooming, which just means going over the issues and being like, what's the status of these? I think 7 and 8 are both mentor approved and ready to be merged when you feel comfortable. And number 5 looks like it's closed, so I'm going to move that to done. Next week we have, let me get zoom out of the way. As a user, I want to filter my shopping list to make it easier to locate an item. So the acceptance criteria are to display a text field above the top of the shopping list. So text field at the very top. And as the user types into the field, this list should narrow to display only the items that contain the text the user's entering. And again, this is where you already have context in place, which is going to be beautiful, because if you hadn't, you would be hitting the database every character that a user entered, which is like, look at our rates immediately. So you have this beautiful context that you can play off of there. So do it. But this is a very good one that's like, when you're in boot camp and stuff and you're doing all those JavaScript challenges that you're like, when am I ever going to use this in real life? Well, this is where. So pull out those old JavaScript challenges for this one. Then the other one is, as an item, I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed at the time my purchase is recorded in the database, so the app can learn how often I buy those items. And the acceptance criteria is, when a purchase is recorded, the estimated number of days until the next purchase date should be calculated and recorded in the database. So with this one, there is a script that is already provided to you in the lib directory, as you can see here. And that will be used to calculate all the dates. So you don't need to worry yourself with what that estimates file is doing. It's doing all kinds of calculations. Don't worry about those necessarily. Just know that you need to pass it some values, and it will give you values back that you need to store into the database. That's it. We've had like teams in the past get really hung up on what that file is doing. And the file is complex. Like, it looks pretty simple, but it's very complex, and math is hard. So you don't need to worry about that file. Just know you're passing it dates, maybe some new data, I'm not sure, and then you're doing something with what it returns. So calculating dates, date things, date objects, some complexity there with math, or on issue 9, good old classic JavaScript challenges. Any takers on either of these things?
These are 2 excellent tickets.
Oh, they're so good.
Good stuff, yeah.
They're so good. You going on?
I guess I don't know, what are the teams this week?
Oh, that's a good question. Are those in?
I don't think I've seen the pairs.
No, I did not do that. I'm sorry.
But we can do whoever wants to be with whoever.
Let's see here.
I'm gonna stick with whatever's on the README or project brief.
Yeah, it's on the project brief. Let's see. My apologies.
No
folks.
worries.
I kind of have a quick question on this last one. So is this going to incorporate into the checkbox functionality that we have? So for example, if the estimated number of days of purchase is way out in the future, are we going to show it as check off because the user technically doesn't need it?
So what'll happen is when you check that box that you created last week, that's when a new date is going to be stored. When that date is stored, it's going to be sent into this calculations that the estimates file provides, and that's going to be stored into the database so that we can apply some visualization so the user can see like, oh, I selected that this was going to be purchased soon, for example, and I purchased it today. So then what is the next date I'm going to need to buy that if I need purchases soon? So yes, it will play off that checkbox.
Okay, thank you.
This is coming up week 5, right? This is week
Yep.
5? Yeah, so we got Leah and Fabrice and Leanne and Mabel.
Mabel and Leanne, do you want to take the date one since you were just asking about it? You don't have to.
Or why not?
All right. Okay. So estimated purchase, this one is going to, not me, Leanne and Mabel. Can I remove myself? It doesn't look so easy like that, huh? There we go. Okay, so then this one will go to, why do I keep doing that? Gosh.
I know, it's so tempting. I know, the same thing.
And Leah. All right. So there you have it. There are your issues. Let me stop my screen share if I can find out how and where to do so. Anything else? You all did an amazing job. I'm so impressed with you. 4 more weeks of this. You got a fully functioning app, a whole bunch of new collaboration skills, and a beautiful, new, hardworking, close team. Good? Okay, I hate to jet like this. Like, goodbyes are so hard. I gotta go to another meeting. And I love you all. Post in Slack if you need help. I posted some questions over there. We're here for you. Let us know how we can help you best, okay?
Thank you, Stacie.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
I see you folks.
Bye.